All right. Welcome. Glad you guys are here for a very, very important night. I'm Houston Britton. I'm the president of the Pryor Area Chamber of Commerce, and we want to welcome you out tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces in here, so I think a lot of you came to the last forum that we had for the last election cycle, and so what we thought is that we would continue that tradition, and every time that we have an election in this area, we'll try to have these forums so that you can kind of get to know all of your candidates. And it's great to see all 7 candidates here tonight. It's amazing. So we're very excited about that. So we're going to get started. The first thing we're going to do is I want to thank Brooks Digital. So this is live, by the way, on YouTube. So I put it out on Facebook before we got here. There's a link. If you want to text someone that you think maybe wants to watch it, just text them and tell them to go to the Pryor Area Chamber Facebook page, and the link's there, and just hit the link and you'll be on YouTube. So we're live. We wanted everybody an opportunity to see this tonight. And I want to thank the Friends of the Library and Carrie for partnering with us to put this together, and in their very nice facility they have here. They're very proud of it, and so we appreciate you guys very much, so thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to do a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you guys will stand and let's pledge the flag, please. It's right behind you. And I'll start. Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go through kind of how this night's going to go real quick, all right? We have 7 candidates, so in the essence of time, when I ask you a question, you're going to have 2 minutes to respond to that. You should know what the questions are. They were given to you in advance, and we have a timer sitting right here on the front. And if you don't stop when the timer goes off, she'll exit you out of the building. Trust me, she will. So, in essence of time, let's make sure that we're respectful to the other candidates and allow them the opportunity to answer the questions, okay? You have the questions in front of you. Once we get through the questions, then we've asked the audience, when they came in, they were given a 3x5 card, and they had the opportunity to write down a question. And so Carrie will bring those up to me later. If we have time, we're going to get through them. Audience, we may not get through all the questions, so I want you to know that because we're going to try to stay within the time frame that we've allotted tonight, okay? All right. First of all, I'm going to pass down the mic, so just pass it down. 2 minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself and that good stuff.
My name is Chris Gontier. I'm not originally from Pryor. I came up here to pastor a church, to do ministry here. I love this community. I do know that the question is, why do you want to hold the office you're running for? I never wanted to be on council.
Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll come back to the questions.
Oh, okay. I thought you said to do it.
Yeah.
It should be answered during our introduction. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm local to with the OK2A and different groups like that. I do some volunteer work, helping different things like that. I have a passion for the people. I want to see this city prosper, grow, become much stronger and much more balanced in the way things are done, so that it'll be healthy and wholesome for people. If we have things that are attractive and worthwhile, people will want to come, and I want to see the town grow in a way that's beneficial to everybody. And so that's kind of my philosophy. I'm a very constitutionally minded person, believing in protecting people's rights and doing what's best. Sometimes it's not always easy. Sometimes people get upset, not understanding, but I believe in doing what's best for the town, and sometimes it requires difficult decisions, and so that's kind of my philosophy. Thank you.
Yes, pass it down.
So a little bit about me. My name is Jason Dickinson. Thank you everybody for being here this evening. I know there's a lot of other things you could have been doing. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. I am married to Emily Dickinson, maiden name Lyon. She grew up here, raised here in Pryor. We actually got married here in Pryor, January 5th, 2008. We have 3 wonderful kids, 6, 7, and 11. Keeps me busy. We've chosen to raise them here in this community. That was an opportunity that we had to move here about 9 years ago now. We've lived here in Pryor for 9 years and in this ward for about 8. I was born in Tulsa, and my parents moved to Claremore when I was 5. I was raised in Claremore on about 80 acres. I have 2 younger sisters. One owns a vet practice in the Copan area, and the other is a delivery nurse in Tahlequah. I graduated from high school in Claremore, attended Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, go Pokes, before getting married and moving to Oklahoma City in 2008. We lived in Bethany, just outside of Oklahoma City for about 6 years. In Oklahoma City, I was a very successful window manufacturer representative for Thermal Windows. They manufacture them here in Tulsa, or there in Tulsa. A great company, great family around operation. In 2014, I moved to Pryor. I started working for John Hawkins, which is Emily's uncle, at Integrated Insurance. It's currently RCI, still located next to the post office. After passing my P&C exams and receiving my license, I worked with John for the next 3 years, building and overseeing commercial insurance policies with him. Then I went to work for Cadet Manufacturing in Shoto until May of 2023. I got a dream opportunity to become an Oklahoma representative for Micro Air Clean Air Systems, a manufacturer out of Wichita, Kansas. And that is about my time and about me.
Well, hello, my name is Autumn Graybill. For those that don't know me, I grew up in Broken Arrow. I did not grow up here in Pryor, but I did move here in 2011. I married a Pryorite, I guess is how you say it. And we've raised our family here in Pryor. Just a little bit about me. I've worked in both finance and in construction, and we also owned our own business. And I have 2 wonderful parents that live in Broken Arrow still, and then I have an older brother that lives in Kansas and a younger sister that lives in Kansas. Both of them have their own. I guess my parents raised us to be entrepreneurs because my parents had their own cleaning company, and so then me and my husband had our own trucking company. Well, my brother has his own digital graphic design company. My sister owns half the town of where she lives. So anyway, that's my family. I have a 19-year-old son and a 10-year-old son, and I love Pryor. This is home. So I did run for mayor in 2019, so those that do know me probably know me from that, or I ran for council last year as well.
I'm Tyler Brown. I'm from Pryor, graduated from Salina High School. Got my master's degree from Texas A&M School of Law. I've got 3 kids with my wife, an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old. My wife is a city employee here. She works for the police department. I am currently employed as a police officer for the Grand River Dam Authority. My current title is major. I directly or indirectly oversee about 95 people. I've been in Pryor, generally speaking, my whole life, like I said, except for a brief stint when my mom got married and moved to Salina. My family is from here. If you know some of the Browns, then you probably know who I am, good or bad. I'm still related to them. And those that know them probably laugh at that more than the rest. So thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Travis Malure. We moved back here in 2001. Had a boy and a girl in the Pryor schools, just loved it then. And then my company moved me to East Texas. We stayed down there for a while. We came back in 2017 when we had the opportunity, and we live here in Pryor. Obviously, else I wouldn't be in this ward. And it's a great. I work out at the industrial park at Nord Americas. We make carbon. I'm in the maintenance department. We do all kind of things like that, and it's just Pryor's a great city. I'll be in it, y'all know, and I've enjoyed this past year. I filled in for Steve Smith, I think he had a family emergency or something last year, and so it's been great this past year. I just want to continue. So that's it.
Well, my name's Cheryl Glancy. I was born and raised in Oklahoma City, spent 42 years there, run my own successful maintenance business, sold it, and decided to become a cross-country truck driver. Believe it or not, yes, I did do that. I've seen every major city across the nation, and when it came time to step out of the truck and find a home, I chose Pryor. I've watched it grow. I'm proud to call it home. Right now I serve on the Planning Commission, which I am retired, by the way. I've been on the Planning Commission for 8 years. I've got 6 years in Oklahoma City that I served. So I'm here to stay. So I guess that's about it.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I am Kenneth Brashears, and a little bit about me. So I was born in Tulsa, and long story short, I somehow ended up over in Verdigris, which is where I grew up and graduated from. And I was one of those fellas that graduated in May, and I went to the Army recruiter in June, and I was off to the Army after that. And so I spent 6 years in the U.S. Army, and there's a lot of story there, but gained quite a bit of skills and abilities that really bleed into other things. But outside of that, about 4 years in, I got married to my wife, and she's here, and her family is from Pryor, and we have 4 wonderful children, and 4 under 10, and so just to say we're busy is probably an understatement. But anyhow, after our military service was complete, we came back to Pryor. And through a lot of prayer and wait and discussion, we decided to lay our roots down here. And so for about 1.5 years or so, I was working down in the industrial park. And then for almost about 5 years, I was working as a field maintenance technician for Casey's General Store. And so I've seen cities in Oklahoma I never even thought ever existed, because apparently they'll just open them up anywhere. But anyway, as of right now, the previous position I'm taking right now is for a Christian ministry, and that's allowed me a lot more time to be able to devote to more things such as this. And so that's where we're at. And at the same time, I've also opened my own small business that I'm trying to grow and invest in, and hopefully will be something that I can pass on to my children one day.
All right, Kenneth, you can hold on to the microphone. And so I'm going to start the questions, and we'll mix it up so the same person's not answering the first question every time, and it's in the same order. So that's way in fairness for the candidates, okay? So Kenneth, you get the first question. You can just pass it down. Again, 2 minutes on each one of these. The first question is why do you want to hold the office you are running for?
Right, so there are really 3 reasons why I desired to hold this role, and one of them developed more as I got to talk to folks within the ward. Number one is, and I'm pretty sure there might be some discussion about it, it's our city financial situation. I'm allotted a lot more time in my schedule now that I can devote to other things, because I'm not working trade work and not knowing if I'm going to get off at 8 o'clock at night anymore. So, I want to bring a voice of fiscal responsibility with how we handle our finances. And the concept of it, I think, is simple, but it's just actually doing the work that it takes to make sure we are fiscally responsible with making the decisions to spend and not to spend. The second issue, and this is the one that really developed over time as I was talking to folks, is we have a lot of folks, at least within the ward, that believe that transparency with what's going on within the city is not where it needs to be. And so there's going to be a lot of work there, and I know we'll talk about that later. And the third thing as well is, and this is something that's been on my heart in multiple levels, whether it's my family or church, the successive generations that are going to take the mantle from us. Of course, I know I'm 32 years old and I'm talking about successive generations, but we're either going to hand them a mess or we're going to hand them something to work with. I'm pretty sure y'all would agree with me that for our children, we would want to give them what we have so they can soar higher than where we could ever get. I'm pretty sure y'all would agree with that. And we may not be in the midst of dire straits right now, but I think we're sitting at the mouth of it. And if we don't make hard decisions now, we might have to make harder decisions then, and I'd like to avoid that. So that's it for me.
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Why do you want to hold this office you're running for?
I feel that there are issues in Ward 2 that need more attention. Crime, drugs, and homeless. Backyard auto repair shops and salvage operations are just a few. Another issue is continuing drainage improvements on North Elliott. Working with the school board to create additional access for the parents on the east side of Roosevelt. Living close to the hospital, we get to see it all. There are many issues within the center of Ward 2, which has been allowed to go on for a very long time. And I'm running for the city council to address these issues, and my hope is to raise the quality of life and represent the citizens at City Hall. We'll talk about the budget a little bit later.
Okay. Well, Pryor's a great place to live. It really helped our kids, and they enjoyed their time immensely here. We have too. And I just want to be a benefit for the city. I mean, really, anywhere I can, I'd like to be a benefit. And right now, it's the city council. Earlier, we served on the P&Z together, and we did some stuff there too. So just wherever, I'm good.
All right, for our audience online, I'll ask the question again. Why do you want to hold this office you're running for?
For me, the last 2 years, I think that anybody that's been paying any attention, and it's probably going to be a common theme tonight, that the city budget doesn't seem to be in check. I would have to agree with Mr. Brashears that it seems like we would be on the cusp of dire straits financially. I know that you can read the paper and you have to read between the lines sometimes, but there's some good information in there. But if you look at the information that's out there, it does seem that the city needs to be more fiscally responsible. I don't know Ms. Graybill's history, much like she doesn't know mine, but I think that we both come in common place on those terms, that we both just want to see what's best for the city so that we're not seeing city workers laid off, we're not seeing reduction in forces somewhere, we're not seeing hiring freeze, things like that. And the best way to do that is to get ahead of it or to stop it in its tracks before it gets to that point.
I'll try to keep this short and sweet. To be honest, politics was never in the scope of what I wanted to do. It came about when I ran for mayor in 2019. And basically it came down to this. I could either sit on my couch at home and complain and gripe about things that are going on in my town and my city that I care about, or I could do something about it. And I chose to do something about it. There's a lot of issues that we're facing, like everybody said so far, and we'll get into those later on. But for me personally, it was, do I just sit here and complain, or do I get up and do something about it? So that's what I'm at.
Okay. I'll ask the question again for our audience online. Why do you want to hold the office you're running for?
As others have mentioned, we do have opportunity to speak on a lot of other topics tonight, and I do appreciate that. So just short and sweet of this, I want to run for this position because I feel our ward needs a change in representation. I feel that I am an excellent candidate for this role based on my previous life experiences and the years of working with local organizations in this community.
I'm probably unique. I don't actually want to be in politics, but I love this town. And I saw some things before I ran the first time that needed to be addressed. And I still feel things need to be addressed. I believe in letting the people know. And there were some things going on that I knew before that weren't being told to the public, and questions that needed to be asked. And because I love this town, I decided I was going to run to try and be involved. I don't always enjoy spending 50 to 80 hours a month doing things for the city, but I do it for the city. I do it because I love the people here, the church, and the families that I'm associated with, and I've grown to love Pryor, and I want to see what's best. And so sometimes I have to make hard decisions that I don't like, but I do it for the sake of the city.
All All right, just pass it to Mr. Dixon there. Now that we all know why you want to hold the office you're running for, the second question is this. What have you learned from your previous experience or service that will help you in this role?
Personally, I feel like it's gonna be a little hard to fit inside 2 minutes, but I'm gonna give kind of a top side of it. So, last 5 years, just kind of give an idea of where I've been. A lot of people that do know me know that I have had quite a bit of impact in Pryor before the last 3 to 5 years in a lot of different ways, and I'll list those here in a little bit. But the last 5 years, I've been managing the daily operations at Cadet Manufacturing in Choteau. This took away a lot of the extra time to help support things in our community, like I previously enjoyed. However, I learned some invaluable information about operating and maintaining multi-million-dollar operations. I was first hired to help build up the company's sales, and then by the time that those were sustaining at a higher level, I was given the promotion to general manager. I was the owner's right-hand man for 4 years. I made daily operational decisions for all the employees, shutdowns, issues, customer complaints, accounts payable, manufacturing schedules, shipping timeframes, you name it. I could do it, and or I could train somebody to do it for me. Now I manage customers and products in Oklahoma for a manufacturer out of Wichita, Kansas. One of the dream opportunities that I've been looking for. This is just some of the most current professional experience that I feel has given me the experience for this role. Just to name a couple other things that I've been doing, different local boards and organizations and fundraisers, such as I've been on the Creekside Church Board for quite a few years, from 2016 to 2022. I was on the Pryor Area Chamber of Commerce Board from 2015 to 2021. I was 2015 alumni from Mays County Leadership Academy, pretty awesome opportunity. I have chaired and partnered on many fundraisers and projects, development teams, such as the Pryor Chamber Third Graders Go to Work. I was very monumental in helping that continue to move forward between 2015 and 2019. I enjoyed being on the Pryor's Composition Plan Board from 2016 to 2019, kind of getting that off the ground. It was pretty awesome to be there. I got to enjoy helping with the Dam Jam Bicycle Planning Committee from 2015 and 2020. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
All right, let me ask the question again for our viewing audience, to remind our audience. What have you learned from your previous experience or service that will help you in this role?
Well, probably one of the biggest experiences I have is I've been regularly attending the city council meetings for quite some time. And from doing that, it's helped me better understand the issues that our community is facing, like the budget and the spending and the homeless situation, conditions of our streets, as well as the crime and safety concerns. And as talking to individuals as well has helped with that. But it's helped me understand how our city finances work and what the issues are that we're dealing with and how all the different departments operate. Like I said before, I've worked in both the finance and in the construction industry, as well as me and my husband owned our own business, and I did the bookkeeping for that. I got to use my experience in construction recently. Last year, I assisted the ad hoc committee that was dealing with the PD and fire overspending in construction, and helped them come up with looking at what was going on, telling them some of the things they needed to focus on as far as the construction and the billing side of the thing. And I also gave them several companies to use, audit companies, because construction audit is not a big, wide industry. It's very few and far between. So I gave them some of those in case the city wanted to pursue an audit of that process. And running my own business, I've learned how to budget based off of a projected income instead of a fixed income. And let me tell you, I'm so glad that I have a fixed income right now, because projected income is not easy to deal with. I mean, the funds may not always be there, so you've got to cushion and you've got to spend wisely. And so it has helped me in that aspect of how the budget for the city works as well. And lastly, being on the park board. I was appointed, sorry. I was appointed to the park board in September, and it is, I've been able to see how those different departments run, and also we've also been able to bring some quality of life to the town. So.
Very good, Tyler. I'll ask the question again. What have you learned from the previous experience or service, from your previous experience or service that will help you in this role, sir?
So before moving back to Pryor, had a very brief stint where I lived in the town of Inola. From 2007 to 2008, I was a city council member there. Anybody that remembers anywhere from about 06 to 08 was not a great time financially, all the way up to about 2010. So difficult decisions were made during my time there. I'm no stranger to making difficult decisions like that. My role at work is I'm an upper level supervisor. I have no problem having hard conversations with people when they need to be had, but I also have no problem praising people when that needs to happen too. And that's very important for our city employees, especially when times are lean. You've got to be able to keep the city employees happy, and if you can't financially make them happy, you need to find other incentives. And I think as a city council member, that should be something that we should be recognizing at meetings and other things like that. And it's additionally, through my years of service in public service, I've made lots of contacts, state legislature, Cherokee Nation council members, lots of stakeholders that are around Pryor that could help benefit Pryor greatly. I've written multiple grants for the department that I work for, and I'm no stranger to that and the process that involved with that, and would look forward to doing that for the city of Pryor, because I think grants are a great way to generate income for the city.
Mr. Miller, what experience in your service will help you in this role?
This past year, it became really obvious that there's a lot of really good people in the city, both in the clerks and the police and the fire, city employees that really 100% want to do the very best for the city, and they're looking for ways to save money and to do the right thing and do everything right there. I say part of our role is to support that and give them tools to make it where they're more efficient, and maybe it doesn't cost as much right there too. My background has been in maintenance. Well, in maintenance, you always learn how to fix stuff for less and make it last longer, and in both in budgeting and operation and things like that. You learn how to work as a team and get the team together, because if two heads are better than one, five are better than three. And really, that's part of what our job is, to work together as a team to make a better thing for the city.
All right, Cheryl, what have you learned from your previous experience in service that'll help you in this role?
Oh, well, where shall we start? 14 years combined planning commission experience. That teaches you quite a bit. Then you got the Unified Development Ordinance. Does anyone know what that is? It's called the UDO. This city, nothing happens that is not checked against the United Development Ordinance, or Unified. We recreated that with the help of some professionals. But I was on the ground floor of it. I helped shape a lot of that. And when it comes down to business, I've had 2 businesses. We just sold the last one this last year. And I know about planning for future. You don't budget every dime you've got. You reach out there and you put plenty back for the future. And somehow I feel like what we had put back disappeared. But yes, I have the experience to sit down and make the hard decisions. And with that, that's my experience.
All right, Kenneth, what have you learned from your previous experience?
All right, yes, sir. So I think there are 2 things in my personal experience that really play into this. They bleed into a lot of different areas of really life in general. But the first thing was, I mentioned I was in the Army. I was a technician on H-64 Apaches, and if you think maintenance is, if you think OSHA is bad, try military aviation. They are as strict as can be. And so also as a junior leader, I got out as a sergeant. And so one of the things that they teach you, and this is military general, and this is also especially in that field of the military, is number one, you get to look at a situation, even if you don't have guidance. You've never looked at it before, but they teach you how to look at a situation, evaluate the situation, come up with solutions that could potentially help the situation, but at the same time also reach out. there were plenty of times where I reached out to, as a squad leader, I reach out to one of my team leaders and say, hey, what would you do in this situation? Because you've got better experience. So it's also recognizing what you have available to you. The other aspect of it too is when there's no oversight, you are entrusted with a lot. And that's the number one thing in any business or in anything is when you don't have oversight over you, you have to be trustworthy. And another part that comes into that was I spent about 5 years in field maintenance. And a part of that was I had no one directly looking over my shoulder at anything I was doing. I went from having an unlimited budget with the Army to now having a limited budget with having to make sure that my employer is still making money. So I'm being fiscally responsible with the maintenance that I'm doing, with parts that I'm ordering, that I'm planning my routes out. I'm doing everything in a way that not only gets our equipment back up, but that also does so in a timely manner that saves money. And so they hated to see me go, but I had other plans, and they tried to keep me back. But yeah, those two things.
All right. All right, Chris, your turn. What have you learned from your experience to help you in this role?
Well, as a pastor, I've learned how to work with people. As an OK2A county coordinator, I've learned how to protect people's constitutional rights. And that's a big deal because that's something that we're losing very quickly. While on the council, I've learned some things. I learned that, and by the way, I was the only person who did not vote for the earnest money, but we lost $60,000 because of that. I voted no, because we shouldn't be doing that. When we had somebody that was supposed to be bringing business to town, we were spending $48,000 a year, and not one business came. I said no. I wanted to pull that from the budget. So being accountable, we had someone that was involved with the building process with the police, fire, and library. We were having all kind of financial woes. I was the first one started screaming about that in the meetings. I was the first one to start really addressing, all right, are we having problems with the general budget? No, no, no. The mayor told us no, no, no. And then all of a sudden, yes, we're having problems. I see things, and I'm not afraid to say it. And I know it makes people mad sometimes, but I am not going to back down when the city is in danger. And I don't plan on losing the promise that I made to be transparent and to hold people accountable. That's what I am supposed to do. When they wanted to pass an ordinance to have a trailers that had to be in a building and with a roof, 4 walls, and you couldn't even have your boat in your yard, I said no, because that is a violation of your rights. And so there are many things like that, and I've learned to recognize that. If it's not constitutional, I'm going to be a no vote, and I don't plan on changing. I've learned the process of working through meetings and trying to have better understandings and how the budget works. And city budget is not easy. It's time? Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll pass it down to Autumn. Thank you guys for those questions, and thank you for staying within your 2 minutes. You guys are doing wonderful. So question number 3, if elected, what is the first issue you will address? And then what is the first action item for this issue?
So there's several areas of concern that I could say and I could talk about. The homeless situation, street conditions, crime, like I've said before. But all of those issues, it all comes down to the budget and our overspending. So the first thing I would endeavor to do would be to help educate not only the different departments, but the citizens of the city as well on exactly how the budget works, and then help come up with ways that we're able to give every department the equipment and the personnel that they need to do their jobs without overspending our budget. I'll work with the city council members and anybody else to help implement ideas and a game plan on how to keep this from happening or repeating again.
Okay, very good, thank you. I ask the question again, if elected, what is the first issue you will address, and what's the first action item for that issue?
Again, the budget has got to be the first thing. There, as Autumn has said, there are other things that go along with that. The action item to go with that is, I think that our city is set up pretty well on what budgets are. It's going to have to take a hard look and saying, okay, are there any cuts that we can make? I don't know if there are or not at this point, but taking a look at all of the different budgets that the city has, each specific department has a general budget, and then they have sub-budgets that come off of that. And you're gonna have to look way down in those budgets and see where things are that maybe can be trimmed back. Additionally, the money comes from sales tax at the end of the day. The first thing that I think that somebody needs to do, whether it's me or anybody else, is saying, what can we do to make this town more attractive for some businesses? None of us like paying taxes, but the more businesses that we have here where we're grabbing out of towners' money from tax money, I think the happier we all are. And that is the way that we can increase our revenue, and it's the easiest way. Nobody wants to increase the sales tax more, so increase the sales tax base. Figure out a way, work with Houston at the Chamber of Commerce, work with state legislators, figure out a way to make Pryor a hub for other businesses and things that want to come here.
Revenue cures all. All right, so I asked a question again to Mr. Malure. If elected, what is the first issue you will address, and what will be the first action item around that issue?
Sure, and it's obvious, it's a budget, but we need to make sure we have adequate people. It could be people in our police force, it could be people in our fire, it could be in the city clerk's office. The city runs on people, it just does. And then, of course, like everybody else is saying, we need more sales tax in the city. That's what drives the budget. And there are some discretionary things too that maybe be nice and be great to have. Maybe right now we can't. Maybe sometime in the future we can.
All right, Cheryl, what the first issue that you'll attack, and what's your action item around that?
Well, my first issue, if I'm elected, is twofold. I will review the drainage and street repairs with the street department and include some residents of Ward 4 in this meeting, creating a little bit more transparency. The drainage problem is unbelievable. One funeral home in our city, at a great expense, had to divert water off their property that was being run off from the hospital. They're slowly but surely getting this corrected on the city's part. But there are other issues, there's other areas. My own neighborhood right there, I live by the hospital. We get flooded quite often. And the answer to the flooding is to dig a deeper ditch. And well, the second issue will be to review the financial statements of all funds to ensure the financial stability of the city while maintaining and improving the quality of life, including homeless. And we've got to find a way to keep everything funded, not to an excess, but that's why we need to look at each and every fund and department.
Okay, thank you. Kenneth, if elected, what would be your first issue you'll tackle, and what's the action item around that?
Have we talked about the city budget yet? All right, and that's obviously I mentioned that's one thing I'm running on as well. It is the city budget, but specifically, there's a lot to talk about it with. But when it comes to an action item that I believe will lead somewhere, I think first off we need to audit things such as the new police and fire station. There are things that I'm pretty sure many are aware of that have happened. That working as a field maintenance technician, I had a part in construction of buildings. The small, mid-sized towns are the most picky towns to get a building certified. And so it's kind of shocking that happened here. And so that would be my first action item.
Sure, Chris, you're already elected. So first action item for you, and what first issue and what action item around it?
Well, I would have to say educating people. We have a charter, and that charter, if it's followed, a lot of these problems we would not have. If you don't overspend, for instance, there's limitations on how much a mayor can spend without council approval. We need to know this, and we need to abide by it. There's duties that the council has to do. There's duties that the mayor has to do. It's a team effort. And when you start getting into each other's area, it's a problem. And so we need to be educated so that we'll know what we're supposed to do and how to do it. Yes, the budget needs to be addressed. Yes, all these things need to be addressed, protecting rights. I agree, we have a homeless problem. We have people that have needs. There's lots of things. But if we're not properly educated on how to handle these problems, then everybody's just doing what they want to do, and it becomes disorganized, disconcerted, and it doesn't work. We're no longer a team. And we need to take that charter that tells us what to do, follow state law, do what we're supposed to do. And when we do that, we can start having proper results. And I believe we need to focus on that. Before we start addressing issues, we need to do it right.
All right, Jason, what would be the first issue you'd tackle and the action item around that?
Absolutely. As indicated earlier, we get lots of opportunities to answer lots of questions, finances we get to talk about later. So the concerns that I have in my ward are from the residents about some of our streets and applicable signage. I appreciate people bringing these issues to my attention, as I also agree and want to find a way forward. I'm happy to hear the street sweeper is being fixed. I don't know if everybody heard that, but I'm super excited. I appreciate that, and I feel that's an asset worth having. Definitely keeps our streets and our town cleaner. That was a concern brought to my attention, and I know we have all missed it. I know there are many high-level concerns about operational costs, obviously, that need to be discussed. So I also know we do not have extra funds for some of the things that have been requested in the ward. However, I do know we can find some simple and very cost-efficient opportunities that are beneficial for the residents of our city and our budget. This is the representation that I have for our ward. Understanding the issues, but also knowing there can be a positive path forward. I look forward to hearing from more of you about the issues or concerns that you may have or want represented. The budget, again, is on the next question, so stay tuned.
All right, we'll take it down to Tyler. Tyler, you get a brand new question, one that everyone's been waiting on. What is your plan to address the city's financial and what is your plan to address the city's financial management?
Okay, so not to be repetitive, again, we're gonna have to look at the budgets. We're going to have to figure out how to grow the sales tax base, which is gonna mean bringing in businesses in for more revenue. And we're gonna have to look and make sure that the budgets don't have any bloat in them anywhere, to make sure that there's not anything that we can cut. By no way am I saying that the city council hasn't done this already. I just know that that's going to be a continuation of my plan if I'm elected, is to continue to look at these things and say, where can we make cost cuts? And where can we make benefits for the employees at the same time? It's very easy to set up here and talk about cost cuts and not think about the employees, but I think that that's a very important part. As Mr. Miller said, they are the lifeblood of the city. They are what runs the city, and we have got to keep them happy. And even when times are lean and even when we're making cuts, we're going to have to find some compromising there in the middle. My experience as a manager now, I have lots of experience in coming to compromise with folks that, find some middle ground that we can all agree on, and let's make a good path forward. So I would continue to encourage departments to look for grants. I know the police department has secured thousands of dollars under Police Chief Cantrell's leadership that doesn't cost the city anything other than a little bit of time to go out and get those grants and to write some paperwork. So I would continue to explore grants with all of the different departments. There's lots of grants that are out there available for all the different city departments. And then from there, again, pound the pavement trying to figure out what businesses we can get to bring in here.
All right, Travis, I think you know the question.
Yep. Is it about the budget?
It's about how are we gonna manage the city's financials?
Yes. It comes down to two things: spending less, obviously, and getting more sales tax. That's really what it comes down to. But I can tell you one thing that the city has done this past time was they got some different software to make it where they're more efficient and they can not spend as much time on doing things. That's a cost savings too, because maybe you don't need that extra overtime to run the job or something like that. So I'm very supportive of upgrades and technologies and efficiencies that the different departments are working together between the police and the city clerk. There's a huge thing that they're working on right now on that. So why not do things like that? But really, it comes down to sales and expense. There's no way around it. So that's what we need to look at and help both ends.
Yeah, you want my 2 cents worth?
For our audience online, what would you do to address the city's financial management?
In order to ensure the city's financial stability for today and for the future, you have to understand allocation, collection, and allocation of revenue stream. Sales tax is our main source of revenue. We continue to hear revenue is up, but the city continues to be in deficit. We must look forward and not backwards and determine what, if any, modifications needs to be made in each individual fund. Any annexed property needs to be reviewed for all additional revenue and associated costs to the city. I will push to make sure the council has an updated financial report on first council meeting of each, the resolution or ordinance. Revenues must exceed expenditure, and we must look at every way to save money. And the reason I bring up the annex in is because there was no financial impact study, and that's what needs to be done. When they annexed in the business part of the district and now the apartments, I believe, did y'all do that? Well, it's coming. But it has yet to, none of it went to the planning commission for review. I don't understand that, but still yet there needs to be a financial impact because there's going to be the need more police officers down there. They're gonna need fire protection. And that's gonna cost money from somewhere, and our budget right now just can't afford it. So a financial impact study is about the way to go.
All right, Kenneth, what would you do to take care of our financial management?
Yes, sir. So you've already heard that there are 2 sides to it. There's expenditures and revenue, just like a household budget. Although, I mean, a city budget is obviously more complicated than that. But what isn't complicated, I think, is principle. We need to monitor our expenditures as time goes on to make necessary adjustments when that's needed. And this is where the libertarian comes out in me. I think we need to first prioritize what is crucial and core to the city. Obviously, that's a police department, that's a fire department, that's infrastructure, drainage, roads, things of that sort. You know, that requires careful monitoring and careful adjustment when that needs to be made. The other side of it too, when we talk about revenues, you know, in my opinion, there's really only so much that a city government in and of itself can do. Private individual citizens bring business, whether it's a corporation or a small business or somebody, somebody from within the town starting a business. And so there's going to have to be a lot of cooperation with the folks in the city itself. Another thing too that the city could do is perhaps even review city codes. See if are we making it more difficult for a city or for a business to come in. If we're working together with folks to attract other businesses, whether it's EDTA, commerce, and so on, are we attracting businesses that fit our landscape? You know, a business that sets up in Claremore might be successful, but if they set up here, they may not be. I mean, it really just depends. And so a lot of that is going to have to come in cooperation with the community because it's the people that are going to bring the businesses that'll bring revenue.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Chris, what would you do to address this financial management?
Well, there are several things that we need to look at. One, we definitely do need to streamline, figure out where we could be wasting. And so we need to stop the bleed. If you got a boat and it starts sinking, you got 2 things you got to do. You got to plug the hole and you got to bail it out. Well, right now we got to figure out why the water's pouring in and stop it so that we can figure out how to get the water out and get back where we need to be. I love to fish. If you know me, I love to fish. I love to be out on the water. I have a boat. I don't have a bigger boat than the one I have, and there's a reason why. I have a Tracker 1860 with a 90 horsepower Mercury, and I know that you're like, well, who cares? I like a Tracker 2072 with 150. horsepower. But I don't have one because the budget does not allow it. My budget does not allow it. And it doesn't mean I hate that boat. It means I can't afford that boat. And so sometimes when I make a decision, it's not I don't want to take care of it, or I don't want, if we don't have it, I don't want to spend it, because I don't want to get us in a position where we have to start laying people off. That's a big concern. Employees are important. They're necessary. They're the heartbeat. They're the lifeblood. And so I want to make sure that we can stay solvent. I'm for investing, not wasting. And I want to identify areas of concern to address them. But I don't want to sink while we're looking and trying to figure it out. And so I think we need to kind of have a period of time right now where there's no unnecessary spending. Just spend what the departments need to do their day-to-day operations, take care of business. I don't want to stop them from operating, but I don't want to get us any further in the hole to a point where we cannot dig ourselves out.
Jason, what would you do to address the city's financial management?
Well, as indicated, quite a loaded question. I have watched many previous council meetings pertaining to budget issues. I have spoken with different council members, previous, current, mayors, citizens, different people that are concerned. I've read PIP articles, Facebook discussions, Tulsa newspaper, local newspaper. I want to be informed. I want to understand. I preface that answer with those details because, personally, I don't have one answer to resolve the city budget. I think the most complicated part is there is not a simple answer. We've heard different answers from everybody here tonight. There's some great opportunities and some great ideas. However, collectively, most of the organizations I've been a part of are nonprofit. They've worked on donations, or we have to come up with funding as a group of leaders for that organization. I'm bringing that mindset that we have been voted to help lead our community. If that be finding money by raising it somehow or somewhere, let's do it. If we have to cut some costs, that's going to suck. I don't disagree with that, but we might have to do that too. It's not always fun to do the things that have to be done sometimes. In operating a business, one of the big things I have learned is that you do not always have to have the answers in front of you. But if you make the right decisions to move forward intelligently, based on the facts you do have, then you never lose. It may not come out the way you planned, but very rarely badly.
All right, Autumn, how would you address this issue?
So I want to first start off by saying I don't think any one particular individual maliciously tried to put us in this situation. We inherited it. And that being said, we all need to work together, unified, in a solution and a plan to overcome that. And I think that starts with you. It's hard to plan something if you don't know what you're dealing with. So educating, and I think vast majority of leadership understands how the budget works. Citizens may not always understand it, but just because, it's based off of a projected forecast, and just because a particular account is budgeted a certain amount doesn't mean that you have that money right now to go spend it all. That comes in through revenue and through taxes. And so if you spend it all up front, then what happens, God forbid, something happens to the economy, and now you don't have anything to fall back on. So being careful about spreading out your funds and only spending on what you need to right now. I look forward to the day when we don't have to be so tight with our budget, and we don't have to say, well, unfortunately, that's a want, that's not a need, so you can't have it. It'd be nice to be at that place, but in order to get to that place, we have to overcome the issue that we're in right now. Again, it also comes down to revenue. So figuring out a way to bring in more shops and businesses to our community, but also to continue to encourage everybody to shop local. That's a huge thing. So I personally have been working on an idea and a plan to help alleviate some of the pressure off the general fund, at the same time allow our safety departments, which is big for our community. We want to keep our citizens safe, a way for them to not have to rely so heavily on the general budget and the general fund in order to have the personnel and equipment they need to keep us safe.
All right, we'll pass it down to Travis with a brand new question. Travis, where were you? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's
Go ahead.
Oh, here's the question here, okay. What is your vision of the city's future, and how will you work to make it a reality?
Right. You know, we went through a class early on when we started the council this past year, and it's talking about our job. And our job as a council is to vision, and it's to provide a vision. And so you start thinking about that. Well, what does Pryor want? Obviously, some people want a swimming pool, right? Some people want a skate park, and some people don't care about either one of those. And so I want a place where people feel safe. The kids can walk home from junior high or elementary school back to their house and they feel safe. I want people to say, man, I'm just going to go down here because I can just buy what I want right here, or I can eat right here, or I can go to the park and just relax. And it's a safe place, and it's a nice place, and people want to be there. And somehow we have to make ourselves, our city, inviting, be willing to grow. And growing is not easy, you know, and we got to make it where it is easy to grow and to be able to expand, because with that, everything comes with that, you know. It could be revenues, it could be other expenses, but by and large, it's good for a community to grow. And there's plenty of them out there that decided not to grow. Gosh, where are they now? They're just ghost towns, and they're just kind of dying on the vine. Who wants to die on the vine? Let's grow. Let's go ahead and get something going. Let's expand. Let's see what our potential is and get after it. That's really what I think.
All right, Cheryl, what is your vision, and how will you make that a reality?
My vision for the city's future is to continue working with the Chamber of Commerce, the Mid-America Industrial Park, and Main Street. These are three very important entities that will help in the growth of this city and getting it publicized more. I will welcome in new annexed property and the developments that follow. There will be further developments. The UDO is a guide that is flexible, and our city staffs make certain that our growth follows the recommendations. We don't want sudden explosion of growth in population, because then that's not going to help our schools or anything else. It's got to be a slow process. We'll meet with contractors to determine what additional streamlining process can be done while staying within state building codes. To continue promoting local shops and welcoming new business and searching for ways to improve the quality of life of the residents of Pryor. And just for the record, we actually have a business that moved from Claremore to Pryor, and they are being very successful. So that's more of what we want. If they want to come, let's have them come.
Kenneth, for the audience and for online, what is your vision for the city, and how will you make it a reality?
Right, so this was a difficult question, and it's not based upon my own personal opinions, but the opinions of the folks that I spoke with thus far. You have half of them that want one thing, you have another half that want another, and they're diametrically opposed. So when you are a representative for that, what do you do? Obviously, there is the oath to uphold proper authority, whether it's the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Oklahoma, and the city charter and city code. But at the same time, you have to listen to your constituents. And so a lot of things and a lot of ideas have been floated around, and a lot of things that are going to take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next month. It's going to take a while to do. But there are a lot of things that probably need to go to the vote of the people. We've had that before, and it's gone one way or another, and some people are not happy with it and others are. But growth is vitally important, but as was mentioned, immediate explosion, it may not be the best thing to happen, at least in the immediate term. But a lot of things we have to recognize, what is it that we can do to attract businesses that are going to provide services and goods that we want and that we need as a community, but also what does the community want? Because you can't ignore that.
Sure. Chris, what's your vision? How are you gonna make it a reality?
Some of us may have remembered a movie, Field of Dreams, Build It and They Will Come. Well, I'm going to kind of take a spin on that. When it comes to businesses, make it a place, make Pryor a place that is easy to come. Before our current mayor was elected and afterwards, I have spoken to him about how difficult it is for businesses to come to Pryor. It's hard to figure out what to do, and so we talked about streamlining things to where you walk in, you can just pick up a step 1, step 2, step 3, etc., whatever type of business is, and know what you need to do. We've had some businessmen make mistakes that had businesses in our town, and they open another business and they make mistakes because it's not easy. Well, make it easy, and then make it a place that people want to be. It's not the job of the city to build businesses. That's individuals. That's free market. The chamber helps, Main Street, I mean, that's great, that's good, but it's people that make businesses. But as a community, as a city, we need to have a place where families are happy, comfortable, they want to be here. Make it inviting. And when you make it inviting, they'll come, they'll stay. They're not going to stay if it's not an inviting place. And so we need to work on ways. I would love to have a swimming pool. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to do that. I would love other things. Not everybody likes a pool, not everybody likes a skate park, not everybody likes to golf. Okay, that's great. Different strokes for different folks, if you will. But what we need to do is do the best we can to create an environment where people want to be. And then we'll grow.
What's your vision there?
Thank you.
Now, let me ask the question so the audience online.
I was getting ready to read it again, just for clarification anyway.
So, what is your vision for the city and how will you make it a reality?
I was attracted to the city 9 years ago to raise my family. That was a vision for me. I wanted a small community, an opportunity to raise my family in a wonderful town and environment. That's exactly what I got attracted to, and I've seen nothing but continuing forward ever since. And it's been really awesome to watch. And I just want to be more of a part of that. So really the main vision I have for Pryor in this community is the same vision I had when I came to town 9 years ago. I want a fun, clean, safe place to raise my family. There's no question that the men and women in law enforcement have supported me in my campaign for city council. For that, I'm extremely grateful and appreciative. One main reason is because they know my vision and they know what aligns with theirs. We want unity and growth for Pryor while continually making this a safe and comfortable home for all our friends and families. I have seen growth and I have been a part of growth since I've moved here. I want to continue building upon that growth. How to make it a reality? I'm working on that right now. I have gained the support, I just need the votes on Tuesday.
All right, Autumn, what is your vision for the city and how will you make that a reality?
My vision is a safe and family-oriented community that's thriving and it brings value to each and every citizen. And that is why I did vote on the park board for the additional pickleball courts and for the skate park without affecting the general fund. That's just added value with responsible fiscal spending. I want a police and fire department that doesn't have to worry about overspending the general fund in order to have the personnel and the equipment that they need to keep us safe. I believe that that goal, it starts with our leadership. It starts with our mayor and our council and our department heads getting together a game plan and a unified goal and how to get there and hold it together and hold each other accountable. I'm going to leave you with this quote, and it is something that I live by. I learned it at my very first job that I ever had. I was probably not in my late teens, early 20s, and it's by just a snippet, but it's from Charles Swindoll, and it's life is made up of 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you respond to it. And we each and every one of us have a choice that we have to make on how we're going to respond with the situations that we've been given. And we can help each other face those together, or we can isolate ourselves. So
Thank you. Tyler, what's your vision? How will you make it a reality?
Pryor is already a good community. Continuing to make it better is obviously a vision of mine, but we don't get there tomorrow. We don't get there next week. We probably don't even get there next year. So my vision would be plant the seeds that are going to grow into the tree that you want 20 or 30 years from now from your kids. Undoubtedly, we have probably the best school district in the entire state for public schools. We are getting magnificent things with the schools. That is a huge draw to outside people when they're looking to come here, whether it's to move here, to bring businesses. The facilities and the programs that our school offers are second to none. And I think that that's a good bonus that we should continue to build on. But we have to start doing things now that are going to set up the future for everybody. And so my plan would be to start with baby steps, start with the small things that we can do now. Like others have mentioned, how do we make things easier for businesses that come here? How do we make it easier for new construction homes? All of those things increase Pryor's value, and they are the easy steps that we can start taking now that are going to pay off long term. And so my focus would be to start on the small things and let those turn into bigger things as they go along.
Thank you. We'll give it to Cheryl.
Okay,
Cheryl, you get the last of the canned questions.
okay,
And we're going to get to the real ones over here in just a minute.
okay, okay. Which question do you want me to answer?
Anybody got any popcorn? No, they're going to be okay. Okay, so final question from this list.
Okay.
What is transparency as it relates to Pryor city government, and how will you promote transparency in your role?
Boy, that's really good, because it's not real transparent. Most of the people that I've talked to, they have no idea who their city councilors are. And why is that? I guess nobody's told them. My ideal is to hold community meetings with the constituents, allowing them to know what the city is doing, informing the citizens of the city's financial status by providing a financial report, and they can let the city know what their issues are. This has not been done in Pryor in the past. And if I'm elected, that will change. And that's about as transparent as it gets.
All right, thank you. Kenneth?
All right, so that is something that I did mention before. You have plenty of folks that think that they get the feeling that they're not there, and there are a lot of questions that they have that are due to them. You know, the answers are due to them. So when it comes to transparency, number one, when you are in civil service or you are in office, it's being amiable and open and transparent with everything that you're doing. You're not hiding anything under obscure numbers or in obscure legal words. At the same time, communication is a two-way street. Transparency is two ways as well. We need to encourage and let the people know that you can ask a question. And I know that it's actually been floated around a lot about community meetings. I've read articles and other things before where various folks, even within our town, have mentioned that. Now, that is a difficult thing to do because guess what? Most people work full-time jobs. They work full-time and a half jobs. And they want to go home, be with their families, be with their kids. And so, you know, doing something on a monthly basis might be a little difficult to get them all involved in that. But you know what's cool? This allows us to do a lot. Now, not everybody does this, but at the same time, you can hold quarterly things. And that's actually ideas that I've been floating around as far as holding something in a quarterly fashion that gives people an opportunity and time to put that in their schedule. But the biggest thing, too, is from the city council, whether it's the mayor or the city council members, we have to be active in encouraging questions and input from our constituents. But at the same time, we got to not hide things under complicated words and legal jargon, and whether it's expenses or things that people are trying to get done.
You know, a flip phone doesn't work very good to do My dad had a flip phone up till the day he passed. Would not get rid of it. All right, Chris. Transparency as it relates to the Pryor city government. How will you promote transparency?
This is a relatively easy question for me because I have very much worked hard to be transparent. When we have city council meetings, if the city's doing something wrong, I'll point it out. Why? Because we are supposed to do it right. We are supposed to follow the law. The contractors that people work with us, we have statutes that we follow. And when I find those and we're violating those, I bring it out so that we can fix it. Because the laws are there to protect the people, to protect the taxpayers. And so I do that. I've run ads in the paper so people would know. I will document the facts, and it's facts, things that I can verify and prove. People ask me, hey, what about such and such, or can I have this? If it's information that they're entitled to have, I give it to them, period. I've been on the phone with people that ask me for something, I'll send it to them right then and there. Why? Because they deserve to know. I keep people in the know. I want the citizens to know. The government is run by the people. The elected officials are just the voice of their constituents. And too many times we have the tail wagging the dog. And that shouldn't be. I work for the people, primarily for those in my ward. And so when I stand up, it's a dude. So it's not a claim of something that I want to do. Since I've been in office, it's part of my lifestyle. I let people know, and I will continue to let people know because I believe citizens need to be informed and educated, and then they'll understand, and then they'll see. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Jason, what is transparency as it relates to Pryor city government? And how will you promote transparency in your role?
Yes. Thank you. As it relates to our Pryor city government and transparency, as far as making sure that, in my opinion, the gross community of Pryor that's allowed to understand and know details has the most access to as much information as they want to be able to make their own informed decisions. So as it relates to the Pryor city government, I don't think it gets much more transparent than we are, in my opinion. It's televised or it's recorded on YouTube. You can watch it for live. You can look at all the meeting notes. You can make your own organized decision based on discussions that the city council has while they're standing up there. So, we have some awesome opportunities here in town, like the PIP. They give their own opinion articles, social media boards. We know that groups on Facebook are not going to let something go by if somebody's upset with it they've watched on the city council meeting. So, I have opinions, and I have some personal ideas that I feel are good for this city, but they're only great if they're really beneficial for all. So the transparency I bring is the reality of me just being a real person for you. I'm an ordinary guy. I'm just an ordinary guy, missing a page, and working all day. I get tied up with the kid, get to do things with the kids in the evenings, and sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes I can get upset, but this is who I am, and this is who I'm here to represent for you. Those of us that are normal people that do not have the time or knowledge to dedicate being a city rep for this ward, and that's why I'm doing this here.
Thank you. Autumn, what is transparency as it relates to city government, and how will you promote transparency in your role?
Well, to me, communication is key, and it starts at the very top. I will say this, that I have been researching and attending or getting notes from our surrounding communities from their city council meetings, and I will tell you that our website, Pryor City website, is leaps and bounds better. Now, I didn't used to say that, but there are surrounding communities you can't find anything. Let me tell you, I've tried calling because I can't find anything out about their city council meetings or anything. So does that mean that it's fantastic? No, there's a lot of room for improvement and enhancement. It would be nice to have a link to the school closings. It would be nice to have, any issues that are going on in the city, like construction or traffic, posted on the website. Community events, all those kind of things. So there's advancement that could be happening with our website, but I will say it is a lot better than our surrounding communities. The paper does a pretty good job in keeping us informed of any events or activities that are going on in our town, but it shouldn't be our sole source outside of the website and that. I know our budget probably won't handle it right now, but it would be nice as something to think about or earmark for a potential thing that the council could do later on would be to hire somebody that's sole purpose is to maintain our social media, website, Facebook, to help keep our citizens informed of what is going on in our community. A lot of people use Facebook. I don't know about Twitter and Snapchat and all of that. Maybe we could put stuff on that. I don't know. I'm not on those. I guess I'm too old. I don't know. But I will say this, something that I have noticed on Facebook, and I'm not on there a whole lot, is the police department has done an amazing job of posting arrests, traffic issues, just road conditions, and also commending their employees. And that's something that I think all of our departments could do and help keep us informed.
All right, Tyler. What is transparency as it relates to the Pryor city government, and how will you promote transparency in your role?
I think transparency is the ability to see things, but the key word there is it's just the ability. It shouldn't be any secret, but the whole town of Pryor is not in this room tonight. There's 70 people in here for a town of thousands. So any of us up here can want to give the information out as much as we can, but it still takes the community giving back, and they have to reach out for that information. So for transparency's sake, I think that the best thing to do is set up avenues for people to get that information. Social media is a great tool. Like Autumn said, Jeremy's done a great job with the police department posting things. I know the fire department has posted lots of trainings that they're doing around town, and it's great to see that they're doing that. MUB continually posts things where they're out working on lines, and there's some street department stuff that's out there. All of those things are great, but those are other departments, and those aren't the city council posting about what's going on inside the council room. So there are things that I think that you could put out on social media, just small snippets that are there. But for transparency's sake, I think that a council member needs to be available to answer the constituents' questions. So personally, if I'm elected, I plan to make my cell phone number available. I do have a day job, but I will pledge to return calls in a timely manner, or text, or whatever that is. And I think that that's how you get transparency, answering the questions that the public has. They may not like our answer, but that doesn't mean that they don't deserve our answer.
All right, Travis, last one. What is transparency as it relates to the Pryor city government, and how will you promote transparency in your role, sir?
First, I hate going last, and
We got a lot more questions.
oh no. Communication. It's pure and simple. Two-way communication and honest communication, both ways, both in the question and in the answer. And you got my commitment to be an honest answer when you ask me a question.
All right, we'll pass it down to Kenneth. Kenneth, you get the first
Go
question.
second to last now.
You get the first question from the audience.
Yes, sir.
There seems to be a lot of conflict within the city council. How do you deal with conflict, and how are you willing to compromise in order to reach a resolution?
Right, so conflict is in the nature of humanity. Look at every echelon of government. Look at your workplaces amongst management. That's just our nature. So there are things, in my opinion, that are not negotiable. The Constitution of the United States is not negotiable. If it infringes on their right, that's not negotiable. We're bound by law. At the same time, there are a lot of things that we can disagree on, and there are times that, yes, we have to make a compromise. You know, we can do this and that, this for that, if it falls within our scope. Number one, it's also being respectful. Number one after that, it's being respectful of each other. We're human beings. We come from many different backgrounds, and we have no idea how we would be if we were standing in each other's shoes. We're all fallible. I don't have all the answers to all these questions that are going to get answered. I mean, no one does. it is a thing where we're going to have to work together. So number one is respect and desiring to have each other's best interest in mind. So,
Cheryl? I'll repeat the question.
All right,
I
please do.
switched up the order so that
Okay.
Travis wouldn't have to go last. There seems to be a lot of conflict within the city council. How do you deal with conflict, and are you willing, and how willing are you to compromise in order to reach a resolution?
Compromise is very important. And there's really no need in all the arguing and the disagreements. When a problem can be solved by simply talking it out, and yes, there's going to be compromise on both parts. That's my ideal of how you deal with it.
Very good, thank you.
I like
Travis?
both their answers, and we need to compromise, but you don't want to compromise your morals or your ethics or anything like that. But you don't necessarily always have the right idea. I mean, they might have a better idea, and there might be something you do together and actually come to a better solution.
Conflict isn't always a bad thing. Conflict grows change, and sometimes change needs to happen. And, as a council member, if there's too much conflict, we have the ability to table motions. And that gives us the ability to go back and talk to our constituents and say, hey, here's what's going on here. Let's get some feedback, again, on this transparency issue. Let's get some feedback and see where it's at. Maybe my constituents want to go a different way than me. As an elected person of the people, it's my duty to, if it's not compromising anything morally or ethically or legally, it's my duty to vote how the people think I should. And that should also drive compromising amongst all parties. There's no way I think that everybody in that council room is going to get along all the time. And I think it's foolish for anybody else to think that. We are all humans, we're all entitled to our own opinions, and we all have our different backgrounds that make those opinions. But the ability to still see the good in what somebody else is offering, along with what you're offering, is what can drive good compromising amongst everybody so that you can come to a good decision for the city.
Okay, Autumn, let me repeat the question for our audience online. There seems to be a lot of conflict within the city council. How do you deal with conflict, and how willing are you to compromise in order to reach a solution?
So, like others have said, conflict comes about when you have two or more people that are disagreeing passionately about where they stand on something. So, to hear each other out and honestly hear each other out and not just listen to somebody talk and not really take it in and understand where they're coming from and what their idea is in their head, and give them a chance to articulate and communicate where they're coming from. Compromise depends on what we're compromising on. Again, morals and ethics, I'm not willing to compromise on. But like he said, we don't all have the right answer. We can't all have the right answer. So somebody may have a better answer than us. And so to open our ears and to listen to each other and have effective communication will help diminish the conflict.
Thank you. Yes, going and watching, obviously catching up on some missed council meetings. I can definitely agree there's some conflict in there. And one thing that I've learned over businesses, and actually something that's sought after and that I have a very high skill in, is conflict resolution. And understanding there's an issue and finding the best path forward for not just me, but everybody involved, the company, the business, the people involved. And that's what I want to bring to the table as a representative for you guys at the city council. That's what you guys are asking of me, it sounds like, in this question. And so at the end of the day, we can have differences. I completely agree. I'm not always going to have the right ideas or the correct resolution for the issue. However, that's why there's a group of us. That's why there's many minds collected that all have a different background and understanding, so that we can come to resolution and understanding. However, we have to make sure we put our personal issues aside so that we can communicate effectively without being frustrated in a personal matter.
Okay, great. Chris, I'll read the question one last time for the audience online. There seems to be a lot of conflict within the city council. How do you deal with conflict, and how willing are you to compromise in order to reach a resolution?
Well, conflict, as been alluded to and said, is not necessarily bad. Nasty and hostility, that can be. But I look at it this way. Whether you're a friend or an enemy, if you've got an idea, I look at the idea. The source is irrelevant. What's best for Pryor? Now, I will not compromise on constitutional. I will not compromise on legal, moral, ethical. Of course, being a pastor, those things are very important to me. But we have to look at things. And sometimes one person may have the best idea and it may not be me. Most likely what's going to happen is there's going to be bits and pieces that are put together from multiple people, from multiple backgrounds, multiple experiences. And when you see the wisdom of the different life experiences, that's when you can come up with better solutions. So I'm not afraid of conflict. I just don't want hateful nastiness. But we have to give people opportunity. There was a time or two when there was something going on in council, and some of the council members weren't settled yet. And I was ready to table it to give them time to come to a decision. I already had my mind made up, but it was important to them. And so sometimes we just have to give the people the time to digest things and not try and rush it through. And I think that's been a big problem. Thank you.
Okay, hand it back to Jason. This is two of the audience's questions in one. So I'm going to combine these two real quick. What are your plans to help with the people with the homelessness and the drug issues we have in town?
Not sure if that's fair to answer right now in 2 minutes, but I definitely agree. As many people have indicated, there's just something that needs to happen. I have, again, making sure that I'm pressing into the community and understanding everything that's going on as I'm coming in front of you, asking you to vote for me to represent City Council Ward 4. I'm understanding that there actually are a lot of opportunities here in town. There are quite a few organizations that have already stepped their foot forward in making sure that there can be funds, people, and places available for these people in our town that just want some help. I know that they're here because they were getting help at some point. And for whatever reason, they feel comfortable in this community. There's not a problem with making sure that there's somewhere for them to get the help they need, the home they need, and be taken care of. And I think that us as a city council, yeah, that's a big job for us to figure out as a city the right ways to come about doing that. But the good news is the city council also doesn't have to come up with all the answers. The city of Pryor doesn't have to have all the answers. We have wonderful people like Main Street, the Pryor Chamber Board. I know there's multiple churches in town that are also progressively looking at having a major impact in helping with the housing issues of these homeless people. So I welcome you to bring any ideas so that we can continue to work on that.
Okay, Autumn, how would you help address the homelessness and the drugs in this community?
So we're to love our neighbors, first and foremost. Where God says to love your neighbors. That being said, although not everybody, vast majority, don't choose to be homeless, and those that don't, we need to figure out a way to get them the resources they need to better themselves to get them out of the situation that they're in. On the flip side of that, I know that there's, homeowners that are being affected by the situation that we have. And they worked hard for what they have, and we need to keep that in mind and not be like, well, we're just going to focus on just helping the homeless. We need to come up with a solution and a plan. Do I have that right now to give you in 2 minutes? No. But it has been something that I've been thinking about. It's twofold. It's not just one-sided. As far as the drugs go, I want them out of my town. give our police department what they need to crack down on it and get it out of our town. I don't want it here. I don't want my kids exposed to it. I don't want my neighbors exposed to it. I don't want my friends' kids exposed to it. So that's where I'm at.
I had an interesting conversation over the weekend with a citizen of Pryor about the homelessness issue. And I think that one of the ways to tackle it is, one, you can't police your way out of it, and nor should we try. You're just going to compound an issue if you're trying to police somebody that's already homeless into jail. Does it need addressed? Absolutely it needs addressed, but it needs to be addressed the right way. There are different levels of homelessness. There are people that do choose to be homeless. There are people that are just on hard times. There are people that have came here from prison to a halfway home, and now they just don't have a ride back to wherever they're trying to get to. We're going to have to evaluate what each individual person is looking at, and make a decision based on that individual person. So I think a good start is to develop a resource list. Our police officers are going to be the ones that deal with them at the end of the day. We're the ones that see it, we might interact with them, but the police officers are going to be the one that get the calls and have to deal with them. So that resource list needs to be passed out to the police department to say, hey, give this to them, help make some decisions with them, walk them through whatever, if they need a phone to call, provide them a phone to call for whatever it is, and let them try to help themselves. The ones that don't want to help themselves, I'm sorry, but we don't need to waste a whole lot of time on that. If they're not going to help themselves, there's nothing that we can do to help them either. The drug issue, Jeremy did a great job getting a grant from the OBN to fund a narcotics investigator. That is a good tool for the city. That is a good crackdown measure. We can put these people in jail, but I'm going to tell you, if we want change in the drugs, then we need to start calling our state legislatures and get it changed from where every drug out there is not a misdemeanor anymore. If I don't care if people have opinions on the legalization of marijuana, but when we're talking about methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, all of these other drugs out here, there's no reason those drugs should be misdemeanors anymore. When they made them misdemeanors, they took away the ability to put these people into drug court and other rehabilitation programs. If we want to fix the drug problem, we call our legislatures to get that fixed.
I can tell you there's some legislation coming on. Mr. Miller.
Okay. First off, on the drugs, it's unacceptable. I mean, really, it's damaging to the person. It's damaging to the community. It's a scourge. Okay, and we can't accept it. We shouldn't have to accept it. It's undeniable. It's so much evidence everywhere. Why would we ever want to promote anything like that? And on homeless, I think the best way is what you're saying. People who want to help themselves, people will help people who want to help themselves. They just do. And we open hearts. It could be churches. It could be community things. It doesn't have to be exactly the city, but it could be people who got a heart for people that want to help them out there.
All right, I don't know which one to start with.
Let me repeat so that
No, I know the question.
But I want to repeat for online.
Okay.
So what would you do, or how would you help solve the homeless issues, and then what would you do to help get the drugs out of town?
Well, the homeless issue, you're never going to get rid of the homeless. I mean, that's a given. They're going to be here. They have been. They used to call them hobos back in the days. But they need more of the community leaders and the churches need to help the Impact Center to provide for these people. I know of one homeless person that wants a job. He now has transportation to find that job, but nobody wants to hire him because he does have a criminal background. So, businesses need to step up too and take some responsibility. Now, as for the drugs, I woke up about 2 years ago in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, by a big explosion. It seems like the neighbor that was living in the shed, he was cooking up a little batch of meth and he blew up the whole thing. So yeah, that was we had a neighborhood meeting at 1 o'clock in the morning in the street. That's not right to have that right under our noses. And the bad thing is, he was living on his cousin's property and she knew what he was doing. The second thing, 2 weeks ago, I watched a teenager in my block buy drugs. You gotta watch these little boys walking around with backpacks on them, hiding out in alleys and stuff. Yeah, we do have a drug problem. And it can go back to the homes. The parents need to educate their children about this. The drugs are there, and I'm glad that Jeremy has got the narcotics officer there, or the division now, so we've got some hope to getting rid of it.
Kenneth?
All right, 2 minutes, and a lot has been said, and there's definitely a lot there I agree with. Now, in regards to the city government and what is the scope of the city government in this issue, the first issue with city government is health and safety of the town. That has to be a priority. We have to equip our police department, which that goes back to our finances, of course. But one of the biggest things, and this comes as being a Christian, is, in my opinion, churches are more equipped to handle this issue because they can make the connections with these people. So first off, kudos to the churches who are stepping up. You may not be perfect in everything you're doing, but you're doing something. And, sometimes that's the first step, is somebody actually doing something, even if it's not perfect. So my encouragement would be, first off, for the community, if you want to help, support those churches that are stepping up to do that. If you're a business, I know folks who have taken the risk to hire on people who have questionable backgrounds. And trust me, I know I have a dear family member, my own father, was that homeless person you couldn't help. He was in Section 8 housing where they were cooking meth, dealing cocaine, in government housing that you and I are paying for. And that's one of my apprehensions of government getting it too far involved, because eventually it's going to be imperfect. But I think really the community is more well equipped to handle this. But so support them who are stepping up to take this head on. And also the other thing too is treat them like people. And this goes back into the law. The way I treat, from a city perspective, a government perspective, the homeless individuals, the same way I treat a homeowner. I hold them to the same standard. I make them feel like an adult, make them feel like they have dignity. Sometimes holding to a standard is extremely beneficial because it gives you motivation to say, I can do something. And so, and I agree with all the drug stuff. We can't really beat that horse to death.
All right, Chris?
I'll address the homeless situation first. We have two things to consider: immediate needs and long term. Especially when it was cold, it would not have benefited anybody for people to not have the food they needed to generate their warmth to survive. So we have to try and take care of immediate needs. That's compassion. Now, long term, you got to look at it, okay, are we helping or are we enabling? That is something that has to be addressed. I sat down with a local pastor and I gave a very detailed description of a plan on how people can be helped. Teaching them, giving them job skills, teaching them and making them earn their way, teaching them dignity, giving them dignity, self-respect. It's a very detailed plan, and it's something I plan to look into further that can help that issue. But primarily, it's going to be the churches and the people. There's only so much government can do, to be honest with you. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times you take a perfectly good program, get the government involved, and they screw it up. And I think bloated and overreaching government is no good. So we have to understand that. Now, drugs is a separate issue. They can be dangerous, and you have to deal with the level of the danger. I'm 100% pro-police, pro-law enforcement, pro-fire, 100%. I believe they're necessary, and they're a good thing to have. I would hate to see what would happen if we didn't have them. I think a lot of times the courts cut their hands and stop them from doing things. So every step of the way has to be looked at. Preventative measures help. A lot of times drugs and drug use and homelessness is a spiritual issue. And sometimes that can help. But some people get addicted to things due to legitimate reasons from being prescribed stuff. So thank you.
Okay,
Starting off again.
it's the last question. This is from the host.
I'm starting it off again.
The host, yes, you are.
All right.
Because it's an easy question. It's not going to take 2 minutes to
Okay,
answer.
then I can do it.
All right.
This is from our host tonight.
Okay.
Not me.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
It's not.
Well,
Oh, it's not? Well, it looks like it is.
I approve of the question.
It's been approved by the library.
that's what I heard. Approved.
Okay, real quick.
All right.
Do you have a library card?
I do.
Okay, you do. So what's the last book you checked out?
Oh, that's not fair. I utilize the online platform. All my kids come to the library about once a week.
Okay, pass it on down. You have a library card?
Absolutely. That's probably the first thing I got when I've told Carrie this before, but yes, I do.
And your last book?
That's not fair to ask because ask
So
my
what you're
husband.
saying
I
is you're
have
not
a
using
book.
your library
No,
card.
I do have a book in my hand all the time. So multiple at one time.
All right,
But yes, I have one.
Tyler?
I do not have a library
Uh-oh.
card, so no.
Why don't you have one?
I'll be honest, I've been in my master's program and I just graduated in December, and the last book I read was a book from law school, so it was quite boring. And that library cost me a lot more money than I'm sure this one does.
Travis, how about you?
Yes, I got one tonight.
Hey, all right. Winner.
And I have not had a chance to check out a book.
Did you watch the forum last year?
Yes, I did.
I hate to say no, I do not have a library card, and the main reason being I go to the book sale and I load up so much I don't have time to go to the library.
Get it?
Yes, sir, I do. And now the last book, I don't know because the last set of books that was about this this tall off the table was what all my children decided to pick out, and so we read to them almost every single night, something from there, as well as the Dolly Parton thing too. But please don't come and tell me. Wait till after the election if I have anything overdue. Okay.
That was the next question. Chris?
For me, for sure.
My library card is expired. But one of the reasons why is being a pastor, a lot of the books I read, I have my own library. I believe in libraries, and I do use the library when I need information that I don't have, and I also use online sources, but I do believe libraries are healthy and good.
All right, we're going to wrap it up real quick. So you got 1 minute, because we're already over time, but 1 minute to just kind of tell folks why should they vote for you. 1 minute. We'll start with you, Tyler. Got it.
Thanks, Ron.
I get to pick who goes.
I think that people can vote for me because I will be a good representative of the public and your opinions, and I will, much like Chris, I'm going to look at what's our legal parameters and make sure we're operating within those. I'll be a good resource for the public to reach out to if they have any issues, but at the end of the day, I think you should vote your conscience, whether that's me or Autumn.
I appreciate your vote, but there's two other good candidates right here too, so vote your conscience.
I will be the representative that will work with the people, for the people, and keep the people informed of what's going on. Follow the Constitution, follow the laws. I am a real hard case on researching, and I will research everything that comes up until it's just tired of me. So cast your vote for me, and I guarantee you there's going to be transparency.
Right, so amongst the three of us, there's probably a lot that we agree on, and so it is going to be a vote of conscience. My desire, what I desire to bring to the city council is, I mentioned transparency, I mentioned fiscal responsibility, but I also desire self-control. When it's not your money, when it's not your resources, it's other people's resources, there's the temptation to abuse it is there. My default is if it's not within the scope, then no. Now, that doesn't mean we can't, but that's just my default. And I just desire to be a sober mind, but yes, vote your conscience, please.
All right, Chris?
Sworn oath to uphold the Constitution of the state as well as the federal Constitution. I've done that. I read the material, the packets. I read one 50 something pages. I read everything, even the coaches that were paid to come in, or not the coaches, the referees that were paid to see what was going on and where we were spending our money. And then I read another 60 or 70 pages of related material that I had to supplement. So I read over 500 and something pages for one council meeting to be informed. I did that on a regular basis, frequently 50 to 80 hours a month looking into things for the city. If you know me, you know I do it. I try hard to protect the citizens. I have a track record. I have experience, and I'll continue doing what I'm doing.
I have heard a lot of feedback before I came tonight that a lot of people didn't exactly know who I was. And I can't blame you for that. I'm excited to understand that people in my ward, people in this town want to know who they're voting for. That makes me excited. So tonight I came here making sure that I could educate everybody, not just in this room, but everybody watching live, everybody that would watch it later, and make sure that you understand who I am and what I stand for and what it is that I can do for you guys as a city and community and our Ward 4 as representation. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that. Again, I have the support of the community. I think personally, I just need the votes in order to be there for you guys. You guys know what you want, and now you have the information about me in order to make your own informed decision about what you want in this community. I would invite you, I do have a handout on this table back here, and you can contact me at your convenience if you have any questions.
So I've done my research, I've done my education by attending our council meetings on a regular basis. I talk with our citizens and I talk with the council members. I want to know what's going on in our town and stay plugged in and not just assume I know what's going on. I'm big with our Constitution, so if it goes against the rules, then I'm not going to be supporting it. I'm not afraid of conflict. Fortunately, I had to do some early on. But our charter has rules. I'm going to stand by those rules just like I'm going to stand by the Constitution. And I'm going to keep myself educated by continuing to go to council meetings. So.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate you guys tonight. And what I would say to you, I didn't get to ask you a question, but this is what I'll tell you. I served on the city council. And the one thing that I learned while sitting on the city council was I may not agree with the person sitting to the left or the right with me, but I absolutely have to respect them. And if you do that and you respect them and you work together, you're elected by the people for the people, but you have to work as one. Because if you don't, we have that divide and that conflict that we have all across our nation right now. And so we've got to work together. And that's what the citizens of Pryor want from their city council. So put personal agendas aside and differences aside, focus on what's in front of you, and work on taking care of the folks here in Pryor, Oklahoma. So I hope there's a cohesiveness that I witnessed tonight, whoever gets elected and whoever's sitting at that council, so you can all work together. Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We appreciate you guys very, very much. This shows that you are engaged in the community. You care about what's happening in the community. Government is important. So we appreciate you guys very much. I want to thank the library for partnering with us again this year. I want to thank the police officers for guarding us back there, taking care of us. Probably live on Facebook, I'm pretty sure. And thank Brooks Digital for filming tonight, for everybody that didn't be here tonight to watch it. So, thank you. And there's some refreshments in the back. They have their pamphlets and palm cards over here signed, so help yourself and enjoy and visit.